is putting how do they say it? Charlie Hebdo images up. And we talked also yesterday that the satirical magazine is not only going to publish at least one cartoon tomorrow. I think you've probably seen it by now as well. Yeah. Initially, they do something in the neighborhood of 36,000 issues. Yesterday, I read early in the morning that went to 1 million, and as of today, they've ordered 3 million. I believe that this issue is excuse me, probably going to be demanded in the millions around the world, or coveted maybe.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
So you sent me some stuff on the tribute. There's something going on in L.A., right?
Oh, yeah. This is really, really fun. In fact, let me check and see if IJR has put this up yet. A buddy of mine, and you've seen these things happen a lot, these kind of underground artists, they've put up a handful of them in the last couple of years, right?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
There was the one, the Ted Cruz one, Wendy Davis, Jane Fonda, Gwyneth Paltrow. Well, this one, and of course, again, I'll put up the pics on, let me find this thing here, man. I sent it to Emily. It's still not up, which kind of ticks me off a little tiny bit. So, folks, here's what went up in L.A. It's a Charlie Hebdo cover, one of the magazine covers, where an Egyptian guy is getting shot holding the Quran, and the Quran is up in front of him to protect him, and the bullets are going right through him. Okay, it's one of the controversial mocking of Muslim Charlie Hebdo covers. And what they did is they put the word goodwill and then the word hunting with a question mark below it. Okay, so picture this. You've got the Charlie Hebdo cover, and then it says Goodwill Hunting, question mark. And now here's the deal, is that this went up yesterday morning, and this was after, the Golden Globes were on Monday evening in Los Angeles. Right. And they put a couple of dozen, oh, by the way, one of our guys just asked, was it Unsavory Agents? Was it Sabo that did it? And I actually don't know. They specifically requested to not have the person's name. Usually Sabo signs his art. In this particular one, these things are unsigned. So I don't know if this is Sabo or not. My instinct is that it's not Sabo, because usually Sabo doesn't just put words, he also does his own artistic stuff. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Dan, I don't think this is Sabo. Anyway, so a couple of dozen of these posters were put up all over Pacific Palisades and Brentwood. Now, there's a couple of insider things about that. Number one is both Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, the guys responsible for Goodwill Hunting, they live right in that neighborhood. In fact, Affleck lives right off of Sunset Boulevard, and one of the posters was hung off the sign, hanging out in the middle of Sunset Boulevard, that Affleck has to turn on to go in and out of his house.
Okay.
And the presumption was that he saw it. But here's the deal. It's kind of layered. Obviously, Goodwill Hunting is making reference to the movie. However, it's also a bit of a call-out. Recall this was last month. Remember, Affleck was totally involved in that thing with Bill Maher and Sam Harris on Maher's show about radical Islam?
Right. Defending it, in effect.
Defending it, yeah. In fact, Affleck was so upset that people were so racist as to call out radical Islam, when in fact, according to Affleck, it's a tiny percentage that have anything to do with this stuff. And then Sam Harris responded with a bunch of facts that in some areas a huge percentage of population support Sharia law and support these types of things that are going on. So although it may be true that Affleck is correct in that a very small percentage of people are actually doing these things, in areas like Libya, Syria, Egypt, Turkey, a significant majority of the population support Sharia law, and specifically, in fact, oh gosh, it's still not up. I did an article on Sunday night, that Eric Holder thing where he was not responding to the question about radical Islam.
Right.
I put up a bunch of results of these polls, one of them being, do you support execution for leaving the Islamic faith? And there are some countries that north of 70% of the population support.
Upwards of 80 in a couple.
Yeah, leaving the faith.
Right.
So that was the argument that Affleck and Harris and Maher were having. And the point of this poster is, hey, look, if Affleck is trying to literally hunt for goodwill from these radical Islamists, how's that working out for him?
Mm-hmm. Again, well, go ahead.
Basically, the leftist tendency to dither and apologize and to try to use nice language is trying to win the hearts and minds and souls of people who are trying to hack off the heads of the infidels. Mm-hmm. And that approach, lying down and exposing your soft underbelly to the bully in order to appeal to the angels of his, the better angels of his nature, is not working.
Well, they just have a completely different mindset. This notion of appeasement, this notion of being nice, this notion of talking with respect. I mean, you read about this all the time. They view that as a weakness. To your point, your underbelly. They respect strength. They respect, in their twisted way, people who can kill them anytime they want to. The left does not and will not ever get that.
No, not at all. Absolutely not.
We should, by the way, I had thought about the Affleck appearance on Maher's HBO show for a while. But, I've been beaten up on Bill Maher through the years for some of the asinine stuff he said, particularly as it relates to Christianity and the bitterness. He can believe what he wants. I could give a damn. But just don't ridicule it. But anywho, and I hate it when people say that, Bill Maher has adamantly chastised liberals for this naivete as it relates to not singling out what's going on in radical Islam, for not or for trying to suggest that there are radicals in Christianity as well. But kudos to Bill Maher, because it's not out of character obviously because he's been doing it consistently. So every once in a while, and I don't know. I was going to say a stopped clock, as they used to say, tells the correct time 2 times a day. But Maher really is able to differentiate that stuff, and that separates him from most uber liberals.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. He's not a weak-kneed, dithering liberal. In the face of atrocities is really what that comes down to, which makes him different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you remember, and you live out there, right? It's maybe a year ago, maybe not so much. I think I even put the clip up somewhere where he was, his comment was, it'll never happen, but he was complaining about the high income tax in California, and his comment was to the effect of, Democrats, you may lose me. Now, he sees idiocy in that as well, and that runs contrary to, again, most uber liberals.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
what we could probably do? We could probably transition to this other thing I did, Mike. If we're going to be talking about California, this thing just went up a short bit ago, the state income or the state sales taxes. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's do that. You got the map up and everything.
Yeah, let me pull this thing up. So, folks, I just put up this article. It's not even been up 2 hours. It's at ijreview.com, titled, If You're Planning a Big Shopping Trip Anytime Soon, You'll Want to Check Out This Sales Tax Map. And this is a group called Tax Foundation. And it's such a great website because and it's, let me call out the website here. It's taxfoundation.org. And basically their entire existence is all about the various different income and corporate and state and excise and use taxes, both within the states themselves and then also across the country. And this one I just put up goes through showing state and average local sales tax rates from last year. And no, so Mike, you have that up? Are you looking at it?
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to, I mean, it won't steal any thunder, but I'm trying to find number one. But yes, I am looking at it. Any surprises there to you, or go ahead with what you were going to say?
You know what? There aren't really surprises. Well, here's the thing: the highest state sales taxes are in Tennessee, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Number one, Tennessee. Number two, Arkansas.
What
number
is
three,
Tennessee?
Louisiana.
I'm looking at it, but
Tennessee's 9.45%. It's almost a 10% sales tax in the state of Tennessee.
they make California look like midgets compared to.
They absolutely do. And then Delaware, Montana, New Hampshire, and Oregon, there is no sales tax.
That doesn't surprise me. You know, Oregon sometimes gets unfairly thrown under the bus, but I think you know, when you get away from Portland and, you know, various college towns and stuff, the majority of Oregon is a pretty conservative state.
Oh, very conservative. I have friends that live outside of Portland, and just like my friends outside of Seattle, and just like my friends living outside of San Francisco and Los Angeles, and I would imagine just like friends living outside of Chicago, Indianapolis, Detroit, Louisville, Nashville, Memphis, on and on and on, they're aghast at it. Now, the interesting thing, a couple of thoughts that came to my mind when I'm writing this, is it kind of, to me, the multicolors across the country demonstrate the beauty of federalism. All the various different states free to experiment within the borders of their states on what they think is the best way to go about taxation. And then the other part, and this was I thought particularly brilliant on my part, and that is to compare the state income taxes to the sales taxes.
Now, see, okay, Mr. Brilliant, you have to stop for just a minute, because I was going to say what would make you equally brilliant, and you read my mind and beat me to the punch. You exactly need a map of state income taxes.
Right. So
he goes right and dismisses them.
I mean,
I love it.
But so I try to figure out where could you live and then shop in order to reduce your overall bite from the tax man, and it's actually possible.
Okay, you know what? Let me say something even worse. So I had not scrolled down, obviously, the post,
right?
Because there's your map.
Yep.
I shall remain quiet for the remainder of this segment.
No, you know what? If you want to jump in to compliment my thinking, please feel free. So it's possible, Mike. Now, this is actually exciting. If you live in Nevada, Washington, or you live in Wyoming or South Dakota, and shop in Montana, or shop in Oregon, it's possible to live in a no income tax state and do your shopping in a no sales tax state.
See, that's brilliant.
Yeah, my daughter's boyfriend lives in Seattle, and they went on a big shopping trip. My daughter was up there I'm trying to remember when that was. I think it was over Thanksgiving. They went on a big shopping trip. They drove down to, or was this last summer? I'm trying to remember when it was. They went on a shopping trip and drove down to Oregon so they could escape in Washington, which is almost a 9. I mean, state of Washington has one of the highest sales taxes, which is kind of where I was going from it. I was trying to see, okay, states need revenue, obviously. So if they've got no sales tax, what's their income tax, or vice versa? In Washington, as you would predict, the state of Washington has no income tax. However, it has one of the very highest sales taxes in the country. And Oregon is exactly the opposite. Now, I like that. Frankly, I like the idea of a high sales tax and no income tax, because then your taxes your taxes paid are literally discretionary.
Well, let's stop there and just analyze that for just a tad, or talk about it at least. To me, and that has always made perfect sense, to tax consumption versus taxing income, and frankly taxing savings. To me, just keying on savings.